Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, here we go again in this topsy-turvy world on this Friday, June 23rd, 2017 day on our calendar. Greg Anthony here checking in with you. And today, wow, I got a bunch of good things to talk about. And we're going to revisit the interview I did in 2008 with the late Barry Chamish, a real top-notch investigative journalist from Israel who tells you the truth about the Knesset being in the pocket of the Vatican, just like, folks, your U.S. congressmen. Yes, I hate to report that their allegiance is to Rome. You're paying them handsomely for that. And boy, they're just keeping it from you, aren't they? So, I was thinking about a couple things today while I was driving and missing all the potholes. But anyway, I was thinking about how, the NSA and all of these new agencies are, spying on, they could spy on any American they want, and we'd never know it. They can hook into your computer, your TV, and who knows who they're doing it to. I think they probably do it to millions of people, and we don't know. But wouldn't it be nice if we could do the same to them? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I always thought if they are bugging us, we should try to bug them. And years ago, I was talking about how we were trying to get a bug into the White House and into Georgetown University, and especially that tunnel that goes from one to the other where they meet in those dark rooms, and they talk about the real truth and how they're going to screw us over. And so I thought that would be cool to do. So what I did was I called their bluff. Just like Donald Trump today called James Comey, the former CIA director who he fired, his bluff, when he told Comey, you better watch out, I have tapes of our private conversations. Well, today Donald Trump revealed he didn't have tapes. So what I'm saying is, we may have tapes right now in the White House in Georgetown just to catch you guys and just to expose who you really are. So, you better watch it. Anyway, enough of that. And today I was also wondering about all these lone gunman assassinations throughout the course of history. All of these, they all seem to be the same, like we're going back to the Lincoln assassination with John Wilkes Booth. And then you can fast forward to the lone gunman in the Kennedy assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald. And all of these lone terrorists that seem to get shot right after they perform a terrorist act. It's always one gunman. Why? Or one terrorist bomber. Or maybe two, and then they kill both of them. But that's usually their pattern. And how many other lone gunmen have there been that they use? How about the guy that supposedly, was robbed? He was from the Democratic National Committee working on Clinton's campaign when all these leaks were coming out. And this guy, I think it was Seth Rich, wasn't it? He was found, he was shot 3 times. And it was said it was a robbery, but there was never money taken. His wallet was there, his money, everything. Didn't appear to be a robbery. Could he be assassinated by 1 or 2 lone gunmen? It's always a lone gunman. How about some of the journalists that were assassinated? Like, what's his name? Gary, it's just Webb of the San Jose paper that was assassinated. And he, the ruling was 2 gunshot wounds to the head, but he killed himself. How do you shoot yourself twice? It's incredible. I guess it's possible, but sounds a little fishy to me. So one article I did that kind of captured my fancy here was back in 2006 on October 20th. And I wasn't relying on conspiracy theorists I was relying on a former Dallas Times-Herald photographer named Bob Jackson, who was there when Jack Ruby supposedly killed Lee Harvey Oswald, the lone gunman. So this is mainstream stuff, folks. I'm not relying on perpetrators in the, or spooks or guys, shills working, as undercover agents and COINTEL ops on the internet. This is from Bob Jackson, a former photographer for the Dallas Times-Herald, who captured on film Ruby shooting Oswald, revealing for the first time in 2006, boy, did this story get covered up, on American radio, my show, he didn't see a speck of blood on the body of Lee Harvey Oswald at the crime scene. And for those JFK assassination researchers and truth seekers out there, startling revelation was made back in 2006 and conveniently not covered by the press and then forgotten about by this guy, Bob Jackson, a former Dallas Times-Herald photographer, who made public for the first time that there was not a speck of blood anywhere on the body or at the crime scene when Jack Ruby supposedly shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, if he wasn't killed, he was there. Maybe he was killed in the van that took him away to the hospital, or maybe they let him go and turned him into somebody else, but they got rid of him because they didn't want a trial in this case. They didn't want to go forward because he would maybe leak the truth out. So he had to either be disposed of or paid handsomely, and he's living on some island off the Caribbean or who knows where. Now, Jackson, on that day, on November 24th, 1963, was on assignment for the Dallas paper on the morning of that day when Oswald was being transferred, remember, from the holding cell, and he snapped a picture, quote, seen round the world, a Pulitzer Prize-winning photo of Oswald grimacing. That photo was taken by Jackson, won a Pulitzer for it, with Jack Ruby fully visible with a pistol in hand shooting Oswald. Was it a cap gun? Who knows? After 43 years, that was back in 2006, so add a few more on now, Jackson told listeners of my show, the investigative journal, he witnessed not a speck of blood. How is that possible if you shoot somebody? What, this guy didn't have any blood in him? Or Oswald for shooting, as well as not a speck of blood anywhere on the crime scene, leading all the way to when Oswald was put in the ambulance. And here's what a quote he gave me. I sure did think it was strange not to see any blood whatsoever. Yeah, I would think it was strange, said Jackson, whose award-winning photo was later published first on the Times-Herald front page and then in the Saturday Evening Post. Yeah, folks, we're talking about times before the internet. How did we survive? That's a good question, huh? I stayed on the scene here's what he said. I stayed on the scene well after Oswald was taken away in the ambulance, and I never did see one drop of blood. Jackson's startling revelation adds fuel to the fire of researchers who claimed Oswald was never shot by Ruby, but later killed by CIA operatives in the ambulance after Oswald was sedated against his will. Jackson's testimony, never before released in the American media, backs up other researchers who claim Oswald and Ruby faked the shooting as a part of an undercover operation designed to eventually eliminate Oswald's knowledge of the real JFK assassination team, as well as his part played as the government's patsy. Quote, Oswald probably was told to fake the shooting and then was double-crossed by CIA operatives who killed him in the ambulance in order to eliminate any loose ends in the Kennedy assassination, said one particularly avid researcher on the Oswald story. On the investigative journal, Jackson was joined by a guy I used to have on the show, Brian David Anderson, a longtime JFK truth advocate, who said Jackson's testimony gives further credibility to the discrepancy to the type and angle of the wound reported in Oswald's autopsy and the angle of the gunshot wound captured in Jackson's photo taken as Ruby supposedly fired the pistol into Oswald's chest. Quote, the bullet should have went straight through Oswald if you look at Bob's photo, but later the attending physician said the angle of the bullet was at an upward angle, said Anderson after he questioned Jackson on the radio show, indicating the possibility that Oswald was actually shot after he was placed in the ambulance. The absence of blood also indicated this to be a real possibility. Regarding the Kennedy autopsy, Anderson was also privy to inside information showing the final doctor's report used in the Warren Commission was rigged. I don't doubt that one bit. Just like they rigged the 9/11 investigation, right? When growing up in Irving, Texas, suburb of Dallas, my neighbor was Dr. Charles Baxter, M.D., the Parkland Hospital coordinating surgeon on John Kennedy, said Anderson. Quote, on November 23, 1974, while I was photographing a hand surgery being conducted by the doctor, Baxter explicated and thoroughly detailed all of the events that occurred related to him regarding the treatment of Kennedy that was purposely excluded from the Warren Commission report. The truth is so more outlandish than any kind of fiction. In the radio interview, Jackson added that he was also present in the presidential motorcade 7 cars behind the vehicle the day Kennedy was shot, hearing 3 distinct shots coming from the direction of the book depository. I looked up after the shots and saw a rifle being pulled in from the window, but I couldn't make out who it was, said Jackson. I also remember seeing 2 police officers run back right into the book depository and remember thinking whoever fired the shots never had a chance of getting out of the building without being caught or killed. Regarding the Oswald photo seen by tens of millions of people, Anderson set the scene as it took place in '63. In the basement of the Dallas Police Department, on November 24, 1963, were 2 photographers. Jack Beers pointed a twin-lens reflex camera while working on the Dallas Morning News, and they took a photograph of Jack Ruby shooting Lee Harvey Oswald. On the 1/16th of a second after Jack Beer pressed the button on his camera, Bob Jackson, with a 35mm camera and working for the Dallas Times-Herald, pressed the button on his camera. Beers immediately returned to the darkroom and processed his photograph that was instantly set out on the wire services around the world. Everyone who witnessed Beers' photograph for the next 2 hours stated he would win the Pulitzer Prize. However, but also hold on. The city desk of the Dallas Times-Herald ordered Jackson to remain in the basement of the Dallas Police Department for over an hour and a half. Therefore, his film was not processed until 2 hours after Oswald had been shot. After Jackson's picture was printed in the darkroom, Felix McKnight, managing editor of the Times-Herald, shouted and stomped his feet as he tried to describe the fantastic photograph to the photo editor of Life magazine, but to no avail. The magazine was under a tight publishing deadline, and the Life editors believed they had the best photo. Therefore, Beers' photo was published in the most popular American publication in 1963. Bob Jackson's photo was also published on the front page of the Times-Herald, and in the Saturday Evening Post, Jackson's photo won the Pulitzer Prize and numerous other awards, and his photograph is an icon of American history. Jack Beer's photo became an almost forgotten footnote in American history by just 1/16th of a second. My, how time is important, right? So here's that more information, boy, right from these people right down there in that area where Oswald was supposedly shot, and there was not one speck of blood. Sounds like one of their initial false flags, right, going on. And you see that a lot in these, cases like in Sandy Hook and all over the place, all these terrorist attacks. You never see any blood. You see like stage settings. They give you the same 3 pictures and the same clip. They run a round clip. It just keeps running on all the stations, and it's the same pictures. And I also thought it's very strange that in these terrorist attacks, not one person with social media the way it is and people with cameras ever get a good shot of really the carnage, which leads me to believe these things are all staged. I mean, it's a good possibility, and that's just using common sense. Well, anyway, enough on that, and I did want to finish a lot of Barry Chamish's interview today that I started yesterday. Barry passed away recently. He used to have a radio program on this station on Wednesdays, and was on my show countless hours for a number of years, going back well over a decade. And Barry really enlightened me about what was really going on in Israel. And he was really a staunch journalist, investigative journalist, who wrote many articles, books about how the Israeli people are being duped, just like we are here in America. So Barry, like I said, is a character, never lost for words. And when I was doing 3 or 4 hours a day, and I got tired and didn't want to speak, I'd always get Barry on because he would take up the whole hour, and all I would have to do is open up with one sentence, and next thing you know, the show was over. But anyway, just again, to highlight Barry and to remember him, let's listen to his voice where I left off yesterday in my 2008 interview with the late Barry Chamish. Okay, here we go. Here's Barry.
How much was the judgment again? $10,000 plus court costs. Okay. Wow. Very interesting. So anyway, Barry, why don't you get, do you have any more you want to say about this? Or? No, I think we summarized it pretty well. I got a cough drop in me. I should be really more vocal. What were you thinking of? I was thinking this. I wanted to get back to basically telling the American people exactly what's going on amongst the leaders of Israel. You know how we talk about how our leaders in America have been corrupted, working together with this one world government idea. Tell us how Israel fits into the picture. Well, for some reason, this New World Order has decided that Israel has to go. And the Oslo Accords of 1993 was the first stage of the end of Israel. You got to remember, way back in 1993, there was no PLO in Israel. They were in Tunisia. There weren't any Palestinian armies. There was no Hamas. And for that matter, there was absolutely no political opposition to Israel. Israel brought back the PLO. Now, you may have forgotten this. I think a lot of people have forgotten this. Until September of 1993, there were no PLO or Hamas in Israel. They were gone. Israel actually brought them back. And worse, by the way, they supplied them with our machine guns. We gave them M16s and Kalashnikovs and supplied them with millions of rounds of ammunition. And that, by the way, was Shimon Peres' idea. By the way, if I repeat the name Peres, remember, he's president of Israel today. Now, anyone knows that if you bring back Yasser Arafat and the PLO and give them weapons and millions of rounds of ammo, they're going to kill Jews. You don't have to be a genius to know that that's what's going to happen. Anyone can tell you that's what's going to happen, except the Israeli government. The Israeli government brought back the PLO and armed them, and they started killing Jews. All of a sudden, Israel had suicide bombers. You didn't know where the next tragedy would be. You've had 10,000 casualties since 1993 Jews. Now, I get people writing me about, this is so absurd, about all the Palestinian casualties of the Israeli Defense Forces. It's absolutely stupid. There have been 10,000 Israeli casualties. And previous to bringing the PLO to Israel, on a bad year, you have maybe 50 casualties. Maybe. All of a sudden you had 500 in 1 year. The next year you had 1,000. This year with the rockets, by the way, just in the region of Sderot and Ashkelon, you've got more people suffering wounds. And by the way, they haven't really hit their targets like the Hezbollah did during the Lebanon War of 1996. But nonetheless, Israel is a nightmare today because the Israeli government voluntarily Albright. Who is that little alien? The little alien Secretary of State, ugly as hell. I met him once. Come on, it was Clinton's Secretary of State. You can't help me there?
Albright?
No, he's a man.
Oh boy, I can't think of it right now.
I can see him in front of me. I was at the Clinton.
I know you're done. But go ahead.
I was at the Clinton Rabin press conference in Jerusalem. Warren Christopher.
Yes.
So I do believe he is from another dimension or planet. You gotta look at this guy from 4 feet away and have a look that he's not human. I mean, he was scary. But they're all CFR. Every one of them who have decided Israel's diplomacy, they're all CFR. And it can't be a coincidence. I'll add, by the way, other names. Even the minor people who have contributed to the downfall of Israel are CFR. People like George Mitchell and Anthony Zinni and what's his name? Baker, not James Baker. There's another Baker, no less. The Tel Aviv Kurzer, the ambassadors for the United States in Tel Aviv, Lewis, every single one of them are CFR.
Okay, so I was taking a break there in 2008, and I'm about a minute and a half from taking a break here in 2017. Boy, is this like Groundhog Day? 2 breaks, and how many years apart? 9 years apart? Wow. You know, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm doing the same thing I'm doing today that I was doing 10 years ago. Oh, I've added some things, some new information, but I've stuck to something once from my life, longer than a couple of months. You know, journalists go from one story to another, to another, to another, and that's what the fascination is in journalism. There's always something new that day, and that's why I enjoyed it. And I wish I would have found out that everything was up and up in the journalism profession, because it isn't a bad way to live. I used to do stories in the morning, or meet people all day, and then half the day write about them, and always something different. But God, the problem is that you can't get the truth out, and you're writing all these useless, nonsensical stories, actually helping the New World Order reach their goal of destroying America. I didn't want to be complicit with that, even unknowingly, knowingly, unknowingly, nothing. So basically, there is probably not one newsroom in this country that would welcome somebody like me. And there's others too out there like me. And boy, maybe we ought to get together on a new news magazine and try to get the truth out. We'll be back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal. And don't turn the dial, as they used to say. Come right back. Back in 3 minutes.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, then, we are back on the Investigative Journal, and before I get going and finish up this interview I did with Barry Chamish, the late Barry Chamish, back in 2008, let me mention this. I forgot at the beginning of the show, we're running a pledge drive to keep this great show on the air, and I want you to go to ARCTICBEACON, that's ArcticBeacon.com, and you can get a show going back shows and articles and all kinds of stuff going back well over a decade. But to keep the show going, it's listener-sponsored. You know advertisers aren't going to get on board when they're going to run for the hills when they hear what we're talking about. And so, to keep this show going, I'm going to need your help. So please, I haven't received much in the last few days, so I'm going to keep at it. And if you're out there, please give us a hand. Now, in the future, what I'm trying to do is revamp my website, turning it into more of a news magazine as well, with a little bit more broader coverage to basically entice other people to listen to what we talk about here, as well as a separate blog show that I'm doing that's going to try to keep this show on the air. So, in the interim, to make sure this happens, go to www.arcticbeacon.com and please hit the donate button. Okay, I want to get back with Barry. And boy, isn't he a trip. I mean, Barry was always full of feisty and full of life and full of so much information that we're lacking now. And my first thought when Barry passed away was, who's going to carry on in his name? And who's going to carry on with that kind of information? And I wonder if we come back here in 50 years, if there'd be anybody that would be carrying on and trying to get the truth out. It'll be interesting to see, wouldn't it, when we're looking down upon this great place that God created. Okay, so let's get back to Barry Chamish, the second half hour of my show. Done. That was in 2008.
Okay, we're back on the Investigative Journal. My guest is Barry Chamish. He's an Israeli journalist and one of the few that tell the truth about what goes on in Israel. Sir, you know, it's interesting. This conspiracy, this New World Order conspiracy, the reason in my research I found the reason Israel was formed was to basically create this World War III and to create this hatred between Jews, Muslims, and Christians. And your reporting verifies that, because you have a government there not supporting the people, just as we have, supporting this conspiracy, this Luciferian one-world conspiracy. And I believe that's one of the reasons why Israel was formed in the beginning by the powers that be. What do you think?
I could talk to you for a long time about the foundations of the state. There's no question that when Germany allied with the Turks and through Theodor Herzl out into cold, that he was the father of labor Zionism, by the way, that World War I was plotted and planned. That's to get the British into Jerusalem and the Turks out, and out comes the Balfour Declaration, which is really just a letter. It was a letter sent from Lord Balfour to Lord Nathan Rothschild of London, committing the British government to seeking a Jewish home in Palestine. All of this was done with a purpose, and this is an entirely different show. If you want to do that, I really actually have a lot of information about that. I have a DVD, which if you'll send me your address, it's about the Vatican's new campaign for Jerusalem, and you're talking about the Vatican is the second player in this war against Israel right now, and the Vatican were the Germans. The Germans were the military arm of the Vatican, and these people have a lot of trouble understanding that the Holy Roman Empire, going back to Charlemagne, were actually spreading Christianity in Europe for the Vatican, and that in the Second Crusade, the Vatican got the king, Frederick Barbarossa, and Jerusalem was the capital of Christianity once again. Was the prime reason for the Crusades in the first place. It's a very complicated history, but that's the other party that's trying to get the Jews out of Israel, are the Vatican, and they're, well, I just say spies, they're agents. Is President Shimon Peres, who is all tied up with Catholic Europe, and Yossi Beilin, the father of the Oslo Accord, who gets his money, and lots of money, by the way. We're not talking little bits of money. His campaign, it's called the Geneva Initiative, costs hundreds of millions of dollars over the years to bring Israel down. And those are the two players. The details I could go into if you ask me. But the players that have now agreed that Israel goes are the CFR, and that's the Anglo-Saxon diplomatic headquarters, Britain and the United States, and you've got the Vatican, which is really through the Bilderberg Group. They are really just continental Europe, and both are committed to see the end of Israel, and the Israeli leadership are chosen by them. They're funded by them, and they are, in fact, working for them. And this is a message I've been trying with great resistance, by to tell the Israeli people, you actually have to end your political system, and you've got to bring in your own people that aren't tied up with this New World Order. And that's been a message in my books, and 3 of those books were translated to Hebrew, trying to awake the Israeli people, but it's just too tough a message. People cannot change everything they believe in, their reality, really, and adopt a new reality with any ease, and we're going to see Israel go down because the forces that run this world don't want to see Israel around anymore.
Yeah, and the point is, the same thing is going on here in America. I mean, that same message should be trumpeted to the American people, and they have a hard time changing that reality. Agreed?
Yes, but it's slower here. You're not being rocketed. Your people aren't running to shelters day after day, and there's no threat that your entire country will be inflamed in a rocket war. And, well, literally tomorrow, next month, or December, it doesn't matter when, America doesn't have that threat. Israel is a tiny place, and the threat of it disappearing is very, very real. Now, I'm going to remind you of something. What happened to Israel's atomic option? What happened to the fear that the Arabs felt towards Israel's 400 atomic bombs? Where did they all go? This isn't even an issue anymore. If Israel goes down, it goes down without a fight. Because the rulers of Israel, well, they're going to benefit greatly from it. But Israel will not defend itself. The old Israel is gone. It's just not there anymore. Now, permit me to tell you what it's been replaced by.
Go right ahead.
You know, there was an issue that was resolved, let's say, 3 weeks ago, where 7 girls, all of them under 18, one as young as 13, were arrested by the Israeli army and then put in prison. Trumped up charges, we won't go into it, so-called settlement, infractions, and whatever excuse was needed, they were arrested. None of them. And these are little girls, tiny little things. These are, 5'1", skinny little 14-year-old girls refused to give their names to the judge, to the police. When they went to court, they just said, we do not accept the court of the official Israeli court as a genuine court. We will not listen to your judgments. We will not give our names. They sat in prison for 4 months. 4 months. Little girls were supposedly as minors. They should have been let out. The fact that they didn't commit any crime, but they refused to recognize the Israeli courts. Now, right now in Israel, the latest of that is Suriel. Her name is Svia Suriel. She is sitting in prison. She just turned 18. She will not talk to the judge. She does not recognize Israel. It's that simple. To her, the courts of Israel are meaningless and illegitimate, and she will not say a word. She will not officially give her name. It's that simple. What you have right now is a very strange phenomenon where a good chunk of the Israeli youth don't recognize Israel anymore. And this is a new phenomenon, and by the way, a very hopeful one. These girls, they're braver than I am. Okay, they're braver than I am. They're sitting in prison for 4 months, refusing to give their names. They were strip searched. These are modest religious girls. Their clothes were ripped off them. against their will, and in front of men, and they were strip searched, but still they didn't give in. They've been humiliated, but nothing could move them. The same thing is happening with Tzvia Suriel. She will not recognize the judge. Excuse me. She won't recognize the judge. She won't recognize Israel. Now, have you read about that anywhere in the United States that this phenomenon is taking place? Greg, are you there? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm here in 2017, but I wasn't there. I guess I got cut off, Barry. But you
went dead.
Yes, I didn't remember that. I'll get back on, hopefully. And I wonder how long this went on. I guess I have to talk to her.
The phone just went dead.
Yes, it did, Barry.
I think I was cut off.
Yes, you're on the air, Barry.
Back, I was trying to phone it back. I was having a good experience. Something happened to our phone conversation. No? Boy, I'll tell you, what a show. Barry, are you back? Barry, are you back?
Well, now I lost Barry there.
Barry.
I don't remember this at all.
Have you returned?
I guess Barry hung up when I came back on.
Let me know if I'm on the. I don't even know if I'm on the air. Somebody is from here. I'm disjointed now by all this.
That's me too. But anyway, let's get back to the point you were trying to make about the
CFR.
Right.
The CFR have made the Israeli government alienated and divorced from the Israeli people. The Israeli people don't understand. They wake up in the morning, they don't understand the news. They don't understand the decisions the government makes. The town of Sderot has been under rocket attack non-stop for the last 7 years, but especially the last 2. And the Israeli government doesn't do anything to actually go into Gaza and find the rocket launchers and put an end to this. This is not the brave Israel that used to exist. I was in the Israeli army in the 80s, and, well, if anybody would send a rocket, there's a one crummy little rocket. We would walk into Lebanon, we would walk into wherever that rocket was launched from, and we would put an end to the launchers. This is how Israel survived all these many years. Right now, the government will not take any action against an enemy that is scaring the Jews out of southern Israel. The town of Sderot and the city of Ashkelon are now under constant missile threat. And I don't think people understand how dangerous these missiles are. I've been under rocket attack, I want you to know. I fought in Lebanon, and they used Katyushas against us. Let me tell you, that's a very scary experience. When they pass over you, they make a noise like a firecracker, go, and then they land, and there's a giant ball of fire and a big explosion. If you can imagine in your neighborhood where you live, 7,000 rockets in 7 years have landed. Try and imagine that as a reality, because that's the reality for Sderot.
Yeah, that's amazing. Go ahead, continue on, because I want to ask you a couple of questions regarding when do you believe this whole situation in Israel is going to blow us up out of the water here?
Well, I don't know if it's going to blow you up. It's already blown me to the United States, and it's blown a lot of Israelis out of the country. Really, there's 30,000 Israelis a year are now leaving the country. But when is it going to blow up Israel? That's real soon. Now, people, I get these emails about Hamas government is doing everything possible to make their people utterly, completely miserable, if not dead. And now what's going on is a commitment to wipe out Israel.
I wanted to add something here real quick. We got a lot more to talk about with Barry, and perhaps I'll bring him on this show and just play it again on Monday. But I remember when I was living in San Diego, downtown San Diego, and there was an oldest park in San Diego there, surrounded by condominiums. And I used to take my dogs for a walk there and got to know a lot of people. And I met an young Israeli woman, married to an American Israeli, and he had gone over to Israel and joined the army and was in the army for 2 years and met this woman. They got married and came to the States and were living in Israel, or living in San Diego. So I got to talk to them about, I was asking her, what was life like when you grew up? And she said she grew up in a town right on the border where there would be rockets being fired, and on the way to school she remembers rockets going off, and there was many nights they had to go to bomb shelters, and she said it just became a part of life. I said, well, did you bring your parents? And she said, no, my parents, that's their home, they're staying, and my sister is there as well. Well, the story is, man, I learned a lot from this lady and the the American Israeli, and I just wanted to bring that to you. Here's Barry.
And they're viewing this as a temporary discomfort until they get their way. The fact of the matter is, they keep shooting the rockets because Israel doesn't react to the rockets. The Israeli people don't understand their government. The government is no longer protecting them. The last war in July of 2006 was a loss. Israel lost that war. It was the first war that Israel actually lost, but they lost it to like maybe 4,000 or 5,000 ragtag terrorists from Hezbollah. They could have been crushed in 48 hours if Lebanon was attacked the same way Lebanon was attacked in the year 82. The Israeli government is clearly, I'm saying this clearly, paving the way for the end of Israel. And now, I know this because I spoke with people who were on the ground floor of Oslo. Have I spoken to you about my meeting with Ron Kudak?
No, go ahead. Tell us about it. And we got about 3 minutes, but I want you to come back on the other side of the hour for a little while to make up for some of that lost time. Go ahead.
All right. Well, people, if you want my books, go to www.lulu.com. Lulu.com, and you spell my name where it says search. Chamish is Chamish. The website, BarryChamish.com, will get you there. If you want my DVDs, especially the Vatican DVD, phone my cell phone. It's 904-501-7605. That's 904-501-7605. And I interviewed with Joel Baderman, my partner at the time, Ron Kuchak, one of the two Israelis who formulated the Oslo Accords. I know what these people really want for.
Okay, so we will do that Monday, the Oslo Accords. And boy, Barry gave out his website. It's still up, I believe. Barry Chamish, CHAMISH.com. Go there and get many of his books and other DVDs and stuff and learn all about what's going on in Israel. And boy, I'll tell you, he's a good guy to get the information from. As well as go to my website at ARCTICBENCON.com, BEACON.com, ArcticBeacon.com, and press that donate button, because that's how we keep this show alive. Kind of like PBS, right? You ever see those PBS pledge drives? But anyway, at least we tell the truth here. So hit that donate button, and anything you can afford as well is really greatly appreciated. And we're going to get back to Barry Chamish on Monday, but in the interim here, for the last minute and a half, let me say to all the people that listen to this show for over the years, thank you so much. And every now and then I receive an email, especially when times get tough, that keeps the show on the air, and I mean moral support, by stating things like, Greg, you've taught me so much over the years, and a lot of this goes without me knowing, because this internet world, you don't know who you reach, you don't know what is going to happen, and I know there's people out there, and I love to get to more people. Now, I told you I got a website quote from a Christian web maker, and it's really expensive, somewhere in the vicinity of $3,500, which I can't afford. But he does great work, so I understand that. But a friend of mine sent me a web builder in India who's excellent as well, and he lives in India and speaks English and works a lot cheaper. So I guess I'm going to outsource. If he comes through, and I'll check it out, I would outsource my website. I have to. But anyway, donate at www.arcticbeacon.com, and we will see you. Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.